Hi guys, this is Ian. Welcome to the Snapkeep channel. I'm bringing you guys a deck on Pauper Elves. This is the deck I've been using in the video. I hope you guys enjoy my league and my highlights. If you do, make sure you give the video a like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoy the video. Alright, so we're going to jump into the first game right here. We have our Elves deck against Mono Red Burn. Definitely a fun deck. I've played a lot of this deck. I really do enjoy Burn. Definitely very competitive. So we have a Essence Warden on the battlefield with a Corn Ranger. And we got a couple of Lava Runners coming at us here. And it's definitely helpful to have the Essence Warden. It gives us that extra life boost, gives us a couple more life. And he's gonna probably swing in with both of them here. And we're gonna take our beats. We're gonna go down to probably 13. And we're gonna try to get the Priest on the board. And we're gonna try to create a board state that's impossible for him to attack into profitably and gain life while we do so. So we take our beats, we draw our card, we get a Fighting Horn Elves. We're going to play that. We gain a quick life right there. So it's not looking pretty good. We're going to put down the Sylvan Ranger. We're going to get another land out of it. And then I'm trying to protect my Priest. I don't want it to be lightning bolted. I don't want him to use a removal on it because it's really important that we have that Priest. It lets us play a lot of our hand and be very explosive. I grab an island for our one sorcery that lets us draw a ton of cards in blue if we have elves on the board. And really powerful. So you want to have that land. You want to be able to create that blue mana. It's definitely very important for this elf deck. So our opponent's turn, however, we have another land there. So 3 lands in Burn. It's a lot of lands. He can definitely sacrifice for the 4 mana or the 6 mana, 4 damage to your face, sack 2 lands. Definitely could do that. He has definitely got action still. So he's got a Lava Spike for us. We're down to 12. We're not going to block again most likely. And now we have another Lava Runner, but we gain another life, so we're at 13. But we're facing down 6 damage, so we're definitely going to need a pretty quick turnaround, a quick board state change. Definitely something needs to happen and impact this next turn to make a difference here. We want to make sure that we make a very good play, or else this game's kind of slipping away from us. So we're going to take our beats here. We're going to take 6 damage to the face. We're down to 7. And we'll see what we come up with. We get another Corn Ranger. We play our island. We play Corn Ranger. Now we have a few blockers, and it's not a lot though. We definitely have the ability to play our 4-3, which we're gonna jump to. We're gonna play that 4-3, get another life. So now we have a decent blocker, and I think we're gonna pass it back to our opponent's turn. I might attack with Essence Warden, get another beat in. We're not gonna block with it. It's there to gain us life, and if he's tapped out, we're gonna try to hit him for 1. Bring him to 15, put any kind of pressure you really can on him. I'm thinking about maybe returning a land and untapping something, trying to play something. I'm not too sure what I want to do. You might get the Priest of Titania out, which would probably be smart, and so I ended up doing that. I untapped the Pauper Elves. I don't have the ability to play Pauper Elves, but I can use this ability from the second Corn Ranger to untap and play my Priest of Titania. So that's a great thing about this deck is it's allowed to be really explosive. When I was playing it, I was definitely finding it very difficult to play against the more control style decks. When you're playing against blue-black and you're playing against the blue Delver decks or white-black Pestilence, it's definitely really, really hard to beat those decks with the Elf deck. It has a lot of answers to what your strategy's trying to do. But in decks like Burn, you're able to just kind of take the opponent's gas out of, take the wind out of their sails when you're able to play a Essence Warden and then a Well-Wisher, or you could play all these huge creatures really fast and explosively and blocks their board. So he does have this Curse of the Pierced Heart. He is permanently getting the damage at a time, but as long as we can find elves, we'll be gaining that life back every single turn. So it's not too much pressure he's really applying to us. He does Needle Drop on us. He's going to draw a card. That's definitely important. So we do take 1 damage, but he's going to draw that card. We want to make sure that's not a burn spell if we could. Play it Elvish Mystic. Gain another life. We're kind of in a board lock state here. I don't want to attack into him and give my ability for him to hit me, and I don't really want to attack into him. I'm thinking about, can I make 8 mana? Is there definitely a way I can make 8 mana? Yeah, let's tap Priest of Titania, give him a +5/+5, and maybe I'll put some pressure on him with my big 4-3 beast. So we got a 9-8 on the board now, so we can't block and profitably, and we're going to attack with a 9-8, put some pressure on our opponent. So now this is where the Burn player never wants to be. The Burn player is not playing defense, and that's a huge deal for us. We want to make sure he's on the back foot. We don't have him, playing these things and just attacking to us blindly. So now we definitely have the advantage. He blocks with one of the Lava Runners, so we take away 2 damage right off the board. Definitely very profitable. And we pass the turn back to our opponent. So let's see what they got. Let's see what the cards they drew. So he got a Probe, brings himself down to 6 life though, which is a little bit of a risky decision here. He's trying to find that extra card to maybe answer some of our threats. And he only has 2 cards in hand now, so he's got 2 unknowns, and he scoops it up for us. We're going to go to the next game. So sideboarding, definitely want to bring in the Hydroblasts. I think we're going to get rid of some of those counters. And I was thinking about Harsh Substance, but it's just probably not a good idea to bring that in. I'm thinking about Feed the Clan, just gain some quick life. And the hard part now is, what do we take out? What do we take out of this deck to make sideboarding effective? Because so many things are so important. You don't want to take out your mana elves, but you don't want to take out your ability elves either. So it's kind of like a hard game to play. So I decided I'm going to take out an Elvish Mystic, potentially. I'm thinking about maybe what's not good in this deck. So Sylvan Ranger, definitely not that important. I took out the 2 Sylvan Rangers and 1 of my mana dorks. So now we're going back into game 2. And we have 1 land. This is definitely this is a risky hand to keep. I need another land. I need the ability to play something else. If we get that second land, though, it could be incredible with Well-Wisher and our priests. So we definitely keep it. Opponent has a Lava Runner right off the bat, but he doesn't have any other spells, it looks like. Which is interesting that he would play a Lava Runner first turn if he couldn't give it haste. Because you want to kind of protect it. You don't want to throw it out there just to be killed. So I have luckily drawn into a second green source, which is huge for this hand. This hand is now extremely good. We're going to be able to play Corn Ranger, play Priest, Well-Wisher, gain life. And that's pretty much checkmate for Burn. Burn won't be able to respond to that in a way they would want to. So our opponent, 2 lands, is attacking with Lava Runner. I'm not going to block. I'm obviously going to take my beats. I don't think it makes any sense to take that 1 damage. We need Corn Ranger on the board. We want down the board. So we see this Needle Drop. He's looking for something, obviously. He's got 4 cards in hand. And he passes back to us, and we have a Distant Melody we draw. So we're going to play our Forest, and we're going to play one of our Elves and our Great Arsenal. So I'm going to play Priest first. That way, if he does decide to bolt it, I have another one, and I can save my Well-Wisher. Well-Wisher right now is the most important card in my hand because it guarantees us a win practically. If we can get on the board with more than 2 Elves, we're essentially negating every single turn the Burn player takes. So we want to make sure we protect that Elf. We get him for 1 damage with the Corn Ranger, and he does decide to bolt our Priest. And we're fine with that because we have another one in the hand. We have another Well-Wisher. He's using a Burn spell on a creature, which Burn never wants to do. So it's definitely a good thing for us. He probes us, so he's going to look at our hand, but he's going to get an extra card out of it, but he does lose 2 life. We're looking to see what the opponent's going to do now. He still only has 2 land, and he goes with the Curse of the Pierced Heart. So 1 damage at a time. He's going to hit us for 2, so we're going to take about 3 damage cumulative this turn. Opponent's playing just a little slow, probably thinking it over, making sure he knows what he's doing. And the Lava Runner gets in for 2 damage. So on the backswing, though, we're going to play another Priest, and we're going to have a huge advantage over our opponent. If we draw a 3rd land, the Lead to Stampede is open. It's on course there, and we're going to take a damage from that Pierce Heart. We also have the ability to play almost anything in our deck. So we get a 3rd land, and now the question is, do I play Priest or do I play Lead the Stampede? And so I'm going to go with Priest. I want to have that board state. I want to be able to guarantee that I can tap for mana and create the mana to play all of these explosive cards that come out of Lead the Stampede. We get in for 1 with Corn Ranger. Hit him down to 16. And then back to our turn, or their turn, turn 4 for Burn. And they have 3 lands now. They play Thermal Alchemist, and this card is unbelievably good. It's very powerful. If you have a couple Burn spells in your hand, it makes that extra 3 points of damage happen. It makes so many games different if that card stays on the board for long enough. So that's a scary card to see. Plus, it's a really good blocker. 0/3, he could block almost all of our elves other than the 4/3 we have and the 3/3 that makes 1/1s. So we definitely need to create a crazy board state to overwhelm the Thermal Alchemist and the Lava Runner. So we get another Well-Wisher, which is huge because we can negate almost anything they do with Well-Wisher. It's a huge card to have on the board. So we're going to be able to play this Well-Wisher, create enough mana to play more elves. We'll have about 4 mana. We could play another Well-Wisher and a Vanguard. So next turn, we'll be gaining lots of life. So first we're going to play Vanguard, though, because we want to get those counters on them. Then we're going to play Well-Wisher. Looking back now, we should have played Vanguard first, but it's okay, we'll be fine. And we have a 2-2 on the board now. This is another option we can use to get around that Thermal Alchemist. But we want to make sure now, our opponent, if they had 3 burn spells in their hand, we would be dead easily because of that Thermal Alchemist. Even 2 burn spells, it would be a little scary. And so we're kind of living on the edge, even though it doesn't look like it. Burning is really explosive. So I see a Lava Spike, and I'm getting a little nervous here because I do have Well-Wisher, but we have to survive this turn or else we can't, crack back with the Well-Wishers and gain all this 10 life. So we need to make sure we survive with this Lava Spike and the Thermal Alchemist. We're going to take 3 from that. We're down to 8 now. He is an untapped Thermal Alchemist. It'll be interesting to see what he does with it here. Is he going to tap for another spell, or is he going to keep back for blocking? That's going to be the key. We want to make sure we know what he's going to do, and it looks like he's going to keep it back for blocking. He gets in for 2, but honestly here, I'm okay with this. I'm going to block with Elvish Vanguard. I can't take any more damage, and that's fine. We're going to trade, and I think that's a good trade for me, because we have Lead the Stampede coming up next. We could probably get something that's blue out of that for Distant Melody, so I'm not too worried about trading my 2-2 there. I think that was a good, definitely a profitable trade, especially against Burn late game. They need every damage point they can get in this point of the game. So opponent is definitely thinking about their options. They're definitely realizing that they're not in a good spot. I have 2 Well-Wishers, a Priest on the board. Elves, this is where you want to be against a deck like Burn. You want to have the ability to gain its life, and anything that Burn does is almost negated in a sense. So I could play Lead the Stampede and then create mana with Priest, or I need to guarantee that I'm going to gain life. So I'm going to tap 1 Well-Wisher, play Lead the Stampede. We're going to get 4 Elves out of this. We lose our 1 island though. We don't have the island. So we're going to get Fainter Elves and Essence Warden, which is another important card to draw. So Essence Warden is huge. We want Essence Warden on the board. So we're going to do that. And I'm not going to play the Hunt Masters just because I want to have every elf on the board possible for that Well-Wisher, and especially with Essence Warden and triggering tokens, it's just going to give me even more life, puts Burn even further away from us, even more out of our reach. Get another land, and we can still have a Priest to tap. We still have a Priest to tap. So we can play Huntmaster now, and this is where Elves goes kind of crazy. I mean, this board state, look at this. It's kind of, we flipped the switch so quickly from being so on the back foot to being so much more in the driver's seat. We really do have the advantage in this game, and there's almost nothing the Burn player can do anymore to win the game. Even if they draw perfectly, it's really pretty much mute. We're going to win this game. We get Well-Wisher. Still haven't tapped Well-Wisher. We've already got 15 life, which is huge. It's a ton of life. And we're looking to not attack really here. Next turn, we'll probably crack at the opponent and try to attack a little bit. We're probably going to tap Well-Wisher, and we're going to gain 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 life from this 1 Well-Wisher, but missed that right there. I should have tapped it. Take 1 damage, down to 14. Opponent has 3 cards. It's interesting what they have, and he scoops it up, win the match. So that was the first match I won with Elves. Definitely should have done a couple things differently. I should have tapped that Well-Wisher right there. There's no reason not to. And definitely could have played a little bit better my placement of Elves in what order, but we're going to run it back. And this is the second match I was playing, and we skipped the first game. It wasn't a very interesting game. I'm pretty sure the opponent didn't have a very good hand, and you can see it pretty quickly. So we're going to have Essence Warden come out, turn 1. We have a Well-Wisher on the board, potentially next turn, and turn 3 we can give Timberwatch Elf, and then Lead the Stampede to refill our hand. So it's not a bad hand. It's not the best hand for Elves, but it's not a bad one. Definitely like this hand. So we're playing Black-White Pestilence, and this deck is so a terrible matchup for Elves. It's got a lot of tools it's able to beat us with, and so it's going to be an interesting matchup. Most likely, I would say 60-40 white-black favored in this matchup, just in general. Elves is really explosive. When they have those crazy starts, there's no beating Elves, but when you have a normal start like this, it's very difficult to beat white-black if they get online. They have so many great removal spells. They have so many ways to hurt, even hex-proof creatures. It's a very, very strong deck in this meta right now. Any fair deck against black-white, it becomes unfair almost. And our opponent has, excuse me. Boy, am I on. We got Prophetic Prism. He's going to draw a card. This kind of gives us an extra turn to kind of figure out what we're going to do next, and we're definitely going to play Timberwatch, I think, unless we're looking for another land. Then we'll play Sylvan Rager. But I think the right play here would most likely be Timberwatch. We have an ability to destroy a target artifact. We could destroy this Prophetic Prism, but it's not too much of a threat. We don't need to waste mana on destroying a Prophetic Prism. So we hit him for 2. I did not incline to gain life there. It was more work the beats, and then we're going to play our Timberwatch Elf. This card lets you be very explosive as well. It allows you to put your 1/1s into astronomically larger 10/10s, 12/12s. I've had some crazy large Timberwatch Elf triggers. And so that's a really important card in the deck, especially if you're trying to beat, a more grindy deck, a more mid-range style. And so they have a 3-1 Inspector. We gain a life from it, they get a clue, and they have a 1/2. So now we can't really effectively attack them unless we tap our Timberwatch Elf. Opponent plays a bounce land, so they're kind of figuring their mana out. They have a lot of cards in hand. Definitely a little worried about what they can possibly play next. And they got a white mana, they got another 3-1 Inspector. So an even more of a creature style start for this white-black deck. And opponent passes it back to our turn. We draw a Pauper Elves, and it's not really what you want to see right now. We really do need something to answer better than what we have in our hand, so I do lead the Stampede. And sadly, it is not a very good one, but it does kind of clear the way for the rest of our deck to draw into better stuff. And so we don't have any mana really to do anything now. We've used all our mana to cast that one spell, but we're going to make this Elvish Warden a 4/4, and we're going to attack. Or Essence Warden a 4/4, excuse me. And we're going to put some pressure on the opponent, hopefully. Opponent inclines to not block with their 3-1 Inspectors. Perfectly normal, I think that's pretty reasonable. I mean, I probably would have blocked with 1 just to save myself that 4 damage. 3-1 Inspector, once you get the clue, it becomes a blocker. It's not a very effective attacker. It's a much better blocker, and it's already shown it doesn't really matter much at this point in the game. I think opponent's hoping to remove my Timberwatch Elf and then effectively make my 1/1s useless, so I think that's why he kept his 3-1 Inspector back. Opponent's got 3 mana in the air, and he exiles our Timberwatch Elf. So it's definitely hurts us a little bit. We don't really have an answer for much of the things he's going to do now. And we don't have a way to apply more pressure on our opponent. So our opponent keeps their 3-1 Inspectors back as blockers. We draw another Mana Dork. Not what we really wanted to see, but we can play out our Mana Dorks and have an explosive turn potentially next turn. Essence Warden gains 1 life. It definitely helps having Essence Warden. It makes the games a little bit longer for you. So if you have to dirtle and draw, you're hoping to draw that card that will get you out of the situation, you'll have the chance to do that with Essence Warden on the board, especially turn 1. You gain so much life. And with Well-Wisher, I have 32 life. I can untap Well-Wisher with my Quarry Ranger, and I could replay that land and gain that life back. And I could, if I didn't think about where I started this turn, 25 life, I now have 27, and I get to play back my Elvish Mystic, another Mana Dork. So it's definitely a very effective strategy, just gaining life like crazy until you put your opponent in an ability to attack. So not a bad turn, not the most productive for Elves, definitely could have been better, could have had a better draw, but we have another Well-Wisher in hand. We could really stall the game with the amount of Mana Dorks and Well-Wishers we have if Black-White doesn't answer so many of our, if they have Echoing Decay, that's not good. There we go, we got the White-Black Pestilence, that's the card. That's definitely not what we want to see, but we kept our Gleeful Sabotage. Thank God, that's a great sideboard card against this, and we're going to get rid of Pestilence. Look at that, perfect. Destroy target artifact, we can Conspire, and this would be perfect. I'm going to play for mana though, I think, and I'm going to get rid of Pestilence immediately. We can't have Pestilence on the board. It's basically I win for White-Black. You need to get that off the board as soon as you can. So we destroy that target enchantment, and now we're kind of in the driver's seat, I would say. It's kind of 50-50 toss-up right now. We can just gain a lot of life. We can't really attack into our opponent. We can't really progress the game state. We can kind of just dirtle and stall and keep gaining life until our opponent can do something or we can do something. And so we're going to be able to tap for even more Elves. We have so many Elves on this board now. Our board state's kind of just developing and building even bigger and bigger. We get another basic land. We get another life. We have a second Well-Wisher in our hand, which we can technically play because we have a Quarry Ranger on the board. But we get our island for our that spell we have. That's the only blue spell in the deck. And we're going to untap a Elvish Mystic to play this second Well-Wisher. And this. There we go. I figured it out. That was a little frightening. Former Ian wasn't really making much sense right there. And so we can stick Well-Wisher on the board, gain some life, and I'm going to pass the turn, I think, back to my opponent. So opponent's turn 6. Just keep in mind, this is turn 6. I have this board state, and the game is effectively not really gone anywhere. And I have 50 life. So our opponent's drawing some cards with his clues. He's kind of looking for answers. He needs to get rid of this crazy board state. He's going to kind of lose control of the game. He's going to lose the script if he doesn't kind of get an answer soon. So opponent thinking over his options, taps 1 black, and he's cycling a Baron. He needs that answer. He doesn't have the removal he needs to he's looking for the Pestilence probably. He can't find it right now, so he's looking for that one answer. He still does have that 1 mana open. He could definitely tap to create something pretty nasty, maybe remove something. Sacrifice removal against this deck is almost useless because I have so many options to sacrifice. I could sacrifice 1,000,000 mana dorks before I ever get rid of the creatures I really need. So that's a very effective part against this deck, but there's a lot of options for this deck to answer with. Timberwatch Elf, definitely something I could use. It kind of creates more pressure next turn. It's gotta survive though, which is a huge problem. So we tap our Well-Wishers, and we gain a lot of life, up to 71. So here I should have probably put a force back into my hand, untapped one of the Well-Wishers at least, and gained more life. But I didn't. In retrospect, I probably should have. I mean, there's no reason not to gain more life, especially if you don't need all the lands on the board that I have. It just makes more sense to use those lands for productive things like gaining more life, giving me the longevity in the game that I think I want. So opponent has Castigate, definitely not effective against my 1 island, but kind of gets them to see my hand, see what I'm working with, and they really don't seem to have many answers for what I'm doing right now, which is really surprising. It's kind of struggling, and look at that, right off the top, Distant Melody. That's going to really help us. We're going to draw so many cards, and this is pretty much the nail in the coffin against this deck. Even if they wiped our entire board, we're going to have so many creatures. And so I pick Elf here, and look at that. I draw a lot of lands, but I lead the Stampede, huge, a Sabotage, another big draw, and a Priest. So you can't really get much better than what I got out of that. I mean, maybe a couple more Elves, but very, very, very good draw. I mean, 10, 15 cards. You can't. There's so much card draw. There's no coming back from that if you're my opponent. And so now I'm thinking about being aggressive and using my Timberwatch. And so I'm going to put it on a Mana Dork. He's going to be a huge creature, but it looks like our opponent has some answer to it. That way he doesn't have to take a huge swing, or he doesn't have to block with his Raven Inspector. So Prismatic Strands comes out of our opponent's hand. That means essentially we have a next turn fog. We can't really do anything against our opponent, but we can make a crazy board state. We could really be explosive here on our next turn. So our Elvish Mystics an 11/11 this turn, which just means it's going to get even bigger when we put it on the board with all these other creatures. So we're going to play this Feanord Elf. Really need to get the Priest on the board. The Priest is probably the most important creature. I mean, you get so much mana from all these elves, and I hopefully do see that I need to play that Priest. There's no other creature you want to play more than that, especially in this situation. So we're going to gain some life. I'm up to 94 life. Excuse me, man. I am just beat today recording. Very tired. Apologize for my yawns. And so we're going to toss the lands. We really don't need any of the lands. And I should have played my Priest, but I didn't see that play during the match. It's a real shame. It allows me to be so much more explosive. Gives me a target for the opponent to have to answer. But I have another Timberwatch Elf in my hands. Even if they do destroy this one, it'll put us back a little bit, but we'll have another one. So opponent's got 5 cards in hand. He's got plenty of mana. He uses 2 Raven Inspectors. He really does need an answer. I mean, I have 94 life. It's going to be hard to lose this game, especially with this board state. So Chainer's Edict, a card I'm surprised he kept in the deck because it's not very effective against my deck, especially because I have so many creatures to pick from. So I'm just going to get rid of one of the elves. Sylvan Ranger served his purpose. It's literally just a 1/1 for 2. So we toss Sylvan Ranger, we keep the mana dorks. It got the land, so now it comes back to our turn. We get another elf surprise, And we play land for the turn, and we're thinking we have a lot of options now. We could play even more elves, lead the Stampede twice. I mean, unbelievable things we can do. Or I can go right into combat, and I could force a creature to have an 11/11 power. And so you probably should wait. You should unload your hand. At this point, though, I might have been worried about possibly being blown out by board wipe. And I figured my board state's perfectly fine at this point. I really don't need to worry about, playing more creatures, putting the pressure on my opponent, because they have to block my 11/11s, and if they don't, I'm gonna win. So I wasn't too worried about it. I wasn't very concerned. He uses Tragic Clip though, which is definitely a good card to play. It gets rid of pretty much anything, and he gets rid of my Timberwatch Elf. So now I'm gonna have to play another Timberwatch Elf. I really should get Priest on the board, even if I don't want to get the rest of my board out there, just because it doesn't make any sense to keep it in my hand. It generates so much mana. It allows us to be so explosive. So if the potential for me to be more explosive was there, I should have kept it on the board. So now we're up to 115 life. Our opponent's going to have a hard time coming back from 115 life, even if they have a very good threat. The only thing they really have in this deck that's a threat is kind of Gurmag Angler. They have that 1/3 that makes them a Monarch, and this Guardian of the Guild Pack 2/3 protection from monocolored. This card in Pauper is so good. There's so many monocolored decks that just destroy that. That card just eats them alive. It's a permanent blocker. So now Timberwatch Elf is essentially useless. I can't use it. He'll just block it with one of his Guardians, and that'll be that. So I play Priest, and I'm figuring I need to create a board state that's so large that our opponent just cannot maintain blockers. That's now my only out, I would say. And so we're going to play another Silver Ranger, and now we're generating tokens with my Huntmaster. Everything is going according to plan, I would say. And we're just trying to overwhelm the opponent. We have 120 life. We're so far ahead. And we have the ability to draw even more cards with our 2 lead the Stampedes. And if they do get another Pestilence, we have a Sabotage. And that's it for the opponent. I mean, they don't know it yet. I mean, they might know it, but we have won this game. 135 life, twice 149 life. And I realized no point attacking, even with a buffed Timberwatch. So we're just going to pass the turn back to our opponent, and then next turn, hopefully, we'll be able to attack with a huge board state and go off with lead Stampede. Opponent really doesn't have any options. 2 cards in hand. He's just got to stay back on defense. So he plays with Jugabog. He's going to exile my graveyard. We don't care too much about what's in our graveyard in this deck. We don't care at all, actually. Our graveyard doesn't really come into play, especially in this game. And so we have 6 mana. We could do 2 hard casts lead the Stampedes without using a single creature. Definitely got a pretty good one there. Distant Melody would have been a little bit better. Let me tell you, 15 card draw. I mean, we would draw essentially our whole deck if we had that. And there's not too many cards we can miss now. So we have another Timberwatch, a Priest again, and an Elvish Vanguard. We have a lot of options here. We have 14 elves on the board, so we get 14. We're gonna play Elvish Mystic first, and this is where I made another silly mistake. I should have played Vanguard first, both of them, and then played the creatures afterwards. And I should have seen that. And I see it now. I shouldn't have played the Mana Dork, and I kind of correct myself. I play Vanguard, and I make sure I get the Vanguard on the board. I also probably should play the Huntmaster immediately after I play the Vanguard. That would give me even tokens and give me more triggers for the Vanguards. So we have a lot of triggers we're going through right now. Essentially, with these 2 lead the Stampedes, next turn my opponent will be dead, and I'll have an exuberant amount of life left over. So we're not too worried about anything our opponent does now. I mean, they can't even really wipe the board totally with Pestilence because it does 1 damage. So we're in the driver's seat. We're feeling good right now. We got so many creatures on the board, and next turn it could be even more outrageous. Another Essence Warden, played by a couple, another Priest, another Timberwatch. We'll have so many 1/1s. We'll be gaining so much life. We'll have so many Elvish Vanguards that are so big. I mean, our opponent cannot come back from this situation. There's just no way. And we still have 5 mana. We can cast our entire hand still. So our opponent is definitely not looking good for them. We got to go through all these triggers still. It just takes a long time. But look at this board state. It's crazy. And now the only deck I think that really competes with elves at this point, compare it with when you have states like this, is Burn. But with Well-Wisher on the board, it's irrelevant. So Burn is a great matchup against elves if you don't find Well-Wisher, but there are so many ways to find Well-Wisher in this deck that it's almost impossible not to. So Burn's a great matchup. I would say Mono Blue Delver and Blue White or Blue Black Delver is a hard matchup. They just kind of counter and destroy your priests or your mana dorks. They never let you get your feet off the ground, and even if they do let you get your feet off the ground, when you get that lead to Stampede that will finish the game, they have the counter for it. Blue is such a powerful color in Pauper. It's unbelievably strong at drawing cards. I think when I play blue opponents, especially with Burn, they never have less than 6 cards in their hand. I mean, they constantly are drawing cards. They're constantly fixing their draws. It's a really hard deck to play against and win. But Elves is a fun deck. It's definitely not a top, I wouldn't say it's top 3 in the format. I played a little bit of Elves. I played a lot of Burn, and that's supposedly a top 3 deck, but I think that's, until they get rid of White Black Pestilence and the 2 Delver decks, it's fully the fourth best deck, I think, in the format. White Black and Blue Black are definitely the best 2, and their variations of each other are definitely more competitive than most. Control the Boros and Red White Weenie are both really good, fair decks, but when you play against White Black Pestilence against those decks, you can't win. But so in this game, we have 219 life. Our opponent has 15. We have a lot of creatures, and I'm just thinking about what do I attack with? Like, what can I do to pressure my opponent? I don't really care anymore about whether or not something dies. I'll keep back Timberwatch though, and I'll use its ability to buff one of my creatures just to make it an unbelievable blocker that they have to throw one of their guardians on. But we're going to do enough damage here, I think, to really harm our opponent and put them close to death. And if they don't draw, the miracle board wipe, which doesn't exist in their deck at this point, then this game's over for them, because we're going to be attacking with 2 Vanguards, a Timberwatch that's buffing something else, and there's just no answer. I mean, this guy, he's playing it out. Respect to our opponent for playing this game out, but it is long over. It is not going to be a victory for our opponent. And so he blocks there, and he can use his 3 Inspector to block definitely a Quarren Ranger or one of my mana dorks and only take 5-6 damage. But he's in the red zone now. 7 he's got 7 life left with this board state. I mean, he has to draw. I mean, there's no card in this deck, not a single card that will change the game state. So this game's locked up pretty tight, and our opponent is going to play a Doublade, so he's going to kill Priest, which, sure, kill Priest, and then he scoops it up like he knew the game was over. And so we're going to jump into the last game here. We got, it's against Mono Green Stompy, a deck I've played before. I definitely like this deck. I don't think it's better than Elves, though. It just doesn't have the versatility or the explosiveness. The deck can be explosive, but it's not as good as the Elf deck for sure. It's so similar too. They play so many of the same cards and they have a lot of similar interactions, but the Elf deck just does it better. It's a better deck. And so we're playing our Burkler Rangers here, and we've already amassed a pretty good board state. We have an Elvish Vanguard, 2 of them, and an Essence Warden to gain some life. And so the opponent, though, does have a decent board state. He's got a couple Nest Invaders, a Quarren Ranger, a Lifelinker. So if he gets a couple enchantments on that, or if he buffs that at all, the lifelink could be very difficult to beat. But we have 2 lead to Stampedes, and that could be a huge difference for us in this game. And so we're just going to pass the turn back. We don't want to lose our Vanguards because we can make them huge with these lead to Stampedes. It's important to hold on to those. The opponent plays the second land. Oh, excuse me. Opponent he has 2 lands. He hasn't played the second land yet. Opponent's thinking over his chances, what he's going to do, figuring it out, and he's definitely in a tricky situation here, because I definitely have the board advantage, and he doesn't know how to lead the Stampedes, so he could probably be hoping to draw out of this in a way, or find an answer to any threat I have. But 2 mana in this deck, he sacks for the spawn token for 3rd mana. He gets Elephant Guide on that lifelink, exactly what we don't want. He's not going to be gaining 4 life a turn, and putting our clock back severely, and creating a very good blocker. But the big thing is he has evasion in the air now. We can't kill that creature in this deck. It's just not possible for us to kill a 4/4 flying lifelinker unless we had the archer that's a elf. But we don't have that card on the board, so we can't really damage the Scrooge, the 1 mana 1/1 flyer. But we do draw a Priest, very powerful card, very important card to have. And we're gonna lead the Stampede though. We want to get as many elves into our hand as possible to be explosive. Timberwatch, Sylvan, Priest, Llanowar. Pretty decent one. We can play Llanowar with our Burglar Rangers. And I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to have 3 mana dorks. We're going to be able to buff our Vanguards a little bit, make one a 4/4, one a 5/5. And I would be okay with trading with the 2 Nest Invaders, but I don't think it's worth attacking. I wouldn't think that'd be smart. And so, in this situation now, I'm looking to return a land in my hand, untap one of our mana dorks, play the land back. Kind of a little nice trick you could do with the Ranger, kind of create some more mana if you didn't have a land that turn. Tap our elf, and we could play Silver Ranger, get another land. That way we're not so reliant on mana dorks. So if he wipes the board by somehow with a green card, which is impossible, or if he plays something that destroys our elves, we have another way to play things. We need to have 2 lands. It makes also our Corn Ranger more effective looping our lands, or our Well-Wishers if we were to draw one. So we have 6/6s now, and I'm deciding to attack. I want to put the pressure on him. He can profitably block nothing really, but he can kill one of them if he blocks with everything on one and still take 6 damage. So I don't think he would want to do that, but he's facing 11 damage. He's essentially at a 2-turn clock now, and it's turn 4, and we have a much more dominant board state than our opponent, I would say. He can gain 4 life, but we're going to play so many elves next turn with Lead the Stampede, with the Priest on the board next turn. His imminent doom is for sure upon him. So opponent untaps, and he looks like he's going to attack with the Volt Screech. He wants to make sure he gets his 4 life back, and he brings me down a little bit, bringing me to 11. And he kind of flips the board state a little bit. He has 15 now, I have 11 now, and he's definitely trying to make it more favorable for him. He gets a Pit Skulker, and he's got 2/2 now, but this is where the Elf deck just severely outclasses the green deck. They have such great long game, and their cards are just so powerful when you have a ability to put your whole deck onto the board in less than 3 or 4 turns. I mean, nothing really can compete with that when you're able to go off. This is what the deck wants to do. This is where you want to be at. Metal Sentinel, great card, but he's going to buff my creature, sadly, with that, and give me a life. So I don't know if our opponent really thought of that interaction. Maybe he did, but he felt like he needed to have the Metal Sentinel on the board. But here we get a Priest essentially locking up the game next turn, and we get bigger Elvish Vanguards, and we can play another Lead the Stampede for our 3 mana dorks, and just get even more elves for next turn. A Well-Wisher, and this game is out of reach right there. We have another Priest in our hand, and a Sylvan Range. I mean, there's just so many ways we could hurt our opponent right now. We also have a way to play another elf this turn. We could Corn Ranger another land, and Burglar Ranger, and we could play Elvish Mystic, or actually we only have 1 mana, so we can only play Elvish Mystic, but we could buff our Vanguards 1 to a 9/9, 1 to an 8/8, and just make blocking very difficult, gain an extra life, kind of put our opponent even more further behind. And so I decided to attack with both Vanguards, keep everything else back, just in case I do need a block and he wants to swing on me for lethal, but I do feel he has to block here with something. So he's going to lose creatures no matter what, or else he just loses the game. So he blocks with the Metal Sentinel, and we're okay with that. He takes damage, he goes down to 7. We're going to sack probably a Silver Ranger. Don't really need it too much. And so we sacked Silver Ranger. Silly, I did that trick, and I should have thought about it, how I did that. Didn't think I was going to have to sacrifice a creature, honestly, when I was doing that in my head. And so opponent still is playing aggressive. He's attacking with his 2/2 and his 4/4 flyer. He's going to try to gain that life back, but it's pretty hopeless for him, I think, honestly. Next turn, I'm going to be able to play so many creatures and just totally advance my opponent. He plays another Pit Skulker, which is totally fine with us. We don't really care too much about that. He's going to untap his Lifelinker as a blocker, which is a pretty good idea. Definitely very smart. And we draw Distant Melody, though, and forget about it. If we can create blue mana, which we can with our Rangers, we could draw so many cards, and we have so much mana available to us now because of our Priest. So, should have waited to play, should have played the Mystic first, then tapped Priest, but definitely a rookie when it came to Elves when I was making these videos. So, I played Elvish Mystic, buffing Vanguard 2 more times, gaining another life, and it's kind of even Stevens life-wise, but you could just tell, I mean, I am much more in control of this game. We're going to play another Elvish Vanguard, so a very strong card, and it's going to be a great blocker next turn in case anything goes awry. We're going to be able to play a lot of Elves this turn, making probably a 4-4, 5-5, pretty much blocking anything in our opponent's deck that he has. So opponent is just not liking this Vanguard, I think. They're looking at it and they're like, this is definitely it for me. It spells the end, man. Because they're just not letting me play any more creatures. They're just sitting there doing nothing. So I'm waiting patiently, waiting for this Vanguard to resolve. It resolves, put the triggers on the stack, waiting for these Vanguard triggers to go. There we go. We're going to play Priest of Titania. And another Priest after that. I mean, we're going to have 36 mana. We could play everything we draw from Distant Melody if we were to do so. And we're going to play another Priest here, another buff for the Vanguard, so he's going to have to block at least one of them with the Vault Screech and a Nest Invader. So right there, he's going to lose out on, he's going to have 3 blockers on top of that. But we're going to try to create blue mana, and we're going to draw with Distant Melody. And we're still going to have mana left over, too. We're going to have about 5, 6, 7 mana, maybe. And, wow. Talk about having cards. We got the 2 other Distant Melodies. So we can essentially draw our entire deck. And we got to make sure we don't do that, obviously. We can play Corn Ranger. And now, right now, we're just trying to kind of build a board state. It's making it impossible for him to win. Build our Vanguards even bigger than they already are. We already have a 4-4 Vanguard. I'm not even worried about playing something that gains me life at this point, honestly, because I'm already so far ahead. But I'm probably going to play this and then a Well-Wisher. It makes more sense to have that Well-Wisher on the board. Also, and we have our mana dorks we could tap too. We could play a Timberwatch Elf. We could do Lead the Stampede. There's so many options we have now to kill our opponent. It's just not even fair. And good on our opponent, again, for playing this out. They really must have believed they could win, I guess, but it's not going to happen. 17-17 Elvish Vanguards, and the one we played this turn is already a 7-7, and we just finished our turn. So we're pretty much going to attack, I think, just with those 2, and next turn will be an all-out attack, just swing the whole board of the opponent. There's no reason to hold back, they'll just be dead. And so opponent looking down, staring down the damage. Luckily, they don't have Trample, or else this game would have been over a lot sooner. And this is just turn 6. I mean, we had such an explosive start. Like, this ability to draw a million cards and play your whole entire deck practically in just a few turns is unbelievable. That's what Elves is all about. So it's just a fantastic way to kind of get into Pauper. It's easy to play. It's fun to play. It's really versatile. It's competitive against almost every deck. You never really feel like you're just straight up losing unless you don't draw your mana dorks and your opponent removes them. So you're playing against the best decks in the format. You're going to feel a little hated on sometimes, but it's definitely so explosive that it can easily beat it at times. It's a fun deck to play. I recommend picking it up. Good thing about it is it's super, super cheap online. So it's very, very, very good to just pick up online and try to play a few games, maybe earn some treasure chests. Definitely a fun deck I would recommend. It's also good to kind of know how it works. Just play the decks of the format. That way you know how you want to kind of attack an opponent when you're playing your favorite deck on format. That's what I found. When I play my burn deck, I love burn and Pauper. I've found from playing other decks like this, and Red White Weenie and Red White Boros, and just other decks in general, that you find how to beat these decks. You see their weaknesses a lot easier from the other side of the table when you're playing the deck you care about the most. So our opponent gets in for 4, they get him to 15. It's kind of fruitless, there's really no point, and he scoops it up. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like, subscribe, comment, and check out more videos on our channel coming from us later. Have a good one, man.